You're listening to Vantage Revival. Please enjoy this encore presentation of Season 1, Episode 6, Kingpin, originally uploaded September 23rd of 2021.
Today on Vantage Revival, we watch a motion picture production directed by the Farrelly brothers, released in July of this week's chosen year, 1996. Roy Munson, played by Woody Harrelson, stops bowling after losing his hand and blamed it on rival bowler Ernie McCracken, played by Bill Murray. Years later, Roy meets an Amish bowler, Ishmael, played by Randy Quaid, and tries to turn him into a professional bowler to win the $1 million prize in a Reno bowling competition. Kingpin, now playing on Vantage Revival. This is my dad's favorite movie. And I don't know a lot of movies from 1996. I wasn't born in 1996, so. But what do you think of my kind of comedy? I laughed a lot during this movie. You didn't, so.
Okay, well, I don't laugh out loud very often, so I can still find something funny and not laugh out loud. So there are moments in the movie that it is really cute, and there are some funny...
Cute?
Especially with, what's his name?
Ishmael?
Ishmael is probably my favorite character in this movie, but I felt that it was very similar to another comedy around this time. Mm-hmm. So a few years before Kingpin came out, the Farrelly brothers did Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
And I think Dumb and Dumber is a better comedy. And this is a lesser version of that, a knockoff version of that, I felt. So I didn't think it was as funny as some of their previous work.
Okay, so to explain the movie a little bit, it starts in 1996. He's a kid, and he's a great bowler with his dad. Jumps to 1979. He's a champion of a bowling championship.
This is Munson, right?
Yes, this is Roy Munson. And then he meets Ernie McCracken, and he gets his hand cut off in a bowling ball machine.
Okay, but it sounds like it's an accident when it wasn't an accident.
No, it's not an accident. They play a scam on some other bowlers, and they get caught, and Ernie throws Roy out to them, and they intentionally make his bowling hand, disappear.
They cut it off.
So then it jumps to 1996, and obviously there's a big difference between that Roy and the new Roy, who's an alcoholic now, and his place is a disaster. His landlord is absolutely crazy, and he finds Ishmael, and then he tries to become a bowling champion. So I just wanted to explain a little brief synopsis of the movie.
So at the very beginning with Roy and his dad, and they flash forward, what was it?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem like it was 10 years. It seemed like it was a little bit longer, seeing that the actors looked exactly the same. Like, the dad looked exactly the same, except he had, like, gray dust powdered on his hair, as if that was to make him look old.
You're telling me Roy looked the same?
Well, Roy didn't look the same, but Roy looked really old already. Like, he was in his late 30s, early 40s, and then they're like, 19 years later, and Roy looks exactly the same at that point, so he has a really bad bald spot with a comb over. I just didn't think that the aging department did the best job of aging these actors. They all look just the same, with just a couple more wrinkles and a bald spot, you know. It wasn't much. And I questioned too, when they were scamming the other bowling team, and Roy did, like, he got the split. He got the split. And they were shocked. They're like, how did he do that? How did he make that split? And I'm thinking, it's impressive, but don't many bowlers do those kind of things? That's the point of bowling, is to aim for the strike or get the split. And he got the split. So, I don't know, they got really excited. Something that I felt was very average. It wasn't like he...
I want to see you do it. 10, 7, 8, 2 split.
I am not bad at bowling. I'm not bad at bowling, so...
I'm going to take you up on that.
Oh, we'll see.
Not anytime soon, but I'm going to take you up on that.
I'll win. Did you actually do any bowling growing up?
I did tons of bowling growing up. I think that was like when you're in grades 1 through 7, that's all your parents allow you to do for your birthday. Let's go bowling, play laser tag. I was not good at it though. I just went bowling maybe a month ago. The first 4 rounds that I bowled, 0. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I didn't knock down a single pin.
I'm definitely beating you.
I came back the next game. Didn't win, but I did better.
Good job, good job. So me and my dad used to actually do bowling as tournaments when I was a kid.
Okay, big shot.
To be fair, I wasn't really the best at it. My dad definitely carried the weight, but we did do that, and we did win some awards and stuff. So
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty confident that I can fake my way through bowling. I still get gutter balls, obviously. I'm not good. But...
Okay, I'm gonna set you up a split. It's so easy.
Let's do it. So the one thing I noticed too about this movie is it's from the 90s, and the humor is kind of, I don't want to say outdated, but there are moments where you see things that you wouldn't see nowadays. So for example, I think it was just one of the friends at the apartment building. He was reading a newspaper, and the newspaper was called Asian Brides, and it had Asian women on the cover. And I don't think you would ever see that in a real newspaper. At least not the cover of the newspaper.
No, probably not.
But those moments like really like stuck out. Or the apartment that he lived in was called something Arms apartment, and it was funny because he lost his hand. He lives in the Arms apartment. It's just,
yeah, that's hilarious.
Is it?
Okay, the one I found funny was when that guy that he spilled coffee on to get an extension on his rent. He is talking about how he needs to take a crap and how he needs to find the newspaper because he needs something to read while taking a crap. And Roy throws him a bottle of shampoo and he's like, here, read this. And he's just like, he's like, new and improved. I already read this one. And it's just so funny because even back then, and I mean, we grew up in the age of, reading the back of shampoo bottles while you took a poo because, tampon boxes, anything that was there, you read it because pooping is so boring. But it's just funny. It's just funny to see, like, how time has changed. Where back in 1996, it was still just as important to have something to read on the shitter as it is today. But man, was it different. I memorized the ingredients in every Head & Shoulders product out there.
See, and like, I don't know how I feel about reading on the toilet. Growing up, my family always had something in the washroom, so I didn't have to read shampoo bottles or the tampon boxes. We had like Archie comics and Garfield comics and
lucky you
magazines and stuff, so it wasn't like we were completely alone when we were in the washroom.
You. I know my cousin, they were very big on having bathroom reader digest books for you to not my family. It had to be classy and clean in there, no Archie comics.
I mean, I get it from like a sanitation standpoint. I'm sure that's really disgusting to have pieces of paper that everyone touches.
And then wipes their ass and then,
puts the book back or whatever it is. So I get why some households would not want that. Obviously, we survived in our household, so it can't be that dangerous.
True.
How old were you when you did watch this for the first time, do you think?
Oh my gosh. Old enough to understand what the landlord meant when she put her fingers around her mouth and then wiggled her tongue. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get that.
With her beautiful yellow teeth.
Yeah.
I felt there were some like really cheap shots as well. The most cheap shot humor point was when he wakes up in the morning with the Amish and he milks the cow. And I get it. I get the joke. It could be funny, but there's no way that a person would not know that they weren't milking the udders with their mouth. And that he was milking a bull. I just felt it was really childish. Really childish.
Well, that's where our humor is different.
Oh, no, I like childish humor, but that moment I just felt like was too far-fetched.
What about when he cuts the horse's feet off?
Yeah, when he's told to take the shoes off the horse.
It's the tallest horse. It's award-winning, and then he just
takes off most of the feet. Yeah, that was kind of funny. Again, in a very, very childish, cheesy way, but it was one of the better jokes on there for sure.
I also, when he's first coming in onto the Amish land, he doesn't put on an Amish accent. He puts on like an Irish accent. Like, that's not Amish.
I can't judge. I don't know if I ever told you this, but like at work, when I'm doing stuff, sometimes I speak and I turn into a British person.
What?
Out of nowhere, I just become British. And I have no control over it. And then I know it's happening. So I realize I can't just stop. So I finish dealing with a customer in a British accent. And then when they leave, I go back to being myself. I don't know what happens, but it comes over me like a couple times a month.
That customer comes back. I was dealing with the British man.
Literally.
Never had one of those.
Literally. What's with those face beards? Like,
I know, you can evidently see where they glued on this fake beard.
But for all the Amish people that had the beards, like almost all of them.
The grandma.
Grandma, the guy who found Ishmael, they were all really bad fake beards. And I get it's a comedy, so maybe that's why I was meant to be really bad. But again, I just saw it and I'm like, you could have put a couple dollars more towards the face
Yeah,
beards.
I definitely noticed that too. While we're talking about Ishmael, I want to talk about the guy who plays him, Randy Quaid. Do you know how crazy he went? Do you know the story of him and like what happened to him?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So he was most known for playing Cousin Eddie in the Vacation series, the National Lampoon's Vacation series.
Okay, yeah.
And he did other things as well, but most famously known for that. And he went absolutely bonkers crazy. When I looked it up, it said that there's a group called Star Whackers, and they are a Hollywood Illuminati group who made a fake alias of someone that could be Randy's wife with the last name Quaid and stole his money. And he just went, he was nuts, and he was doing weird things. Honestly, if you're listening, Google it when you get home because it's insane. But so much so, he went so crazy that he ended up escaping the United States, and now he lives quaint and quietly in Montreal. He ran away and he now lives in Canada because he's cuckoo.
Or does he understand the true meaning of life and has escaped the craziness of society?
That is true. I'm glad that he escaped to Canada. Just proves.
It's a crazy world out there.
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, like, in the movie, they kept saying that people are getting Munsoned. So I want to know what you think your, like, don't get D'Artagnan'd is. Like, what do you think your...
I mean, I haven't thought about it, so I don't have an answer for you. How about I come back to that?
Yeah, there you go.
Put some thought into it.
There you go.
In this movie, they pretend to be dictionary salesmen to get into these bowling alleys. I don't know, like, what bowling alley would need a dictionary salesman ever?
I think that they're just dictionary salesmen and they are now leisurely going bowling. I don't necessarily think they're trying to sell dictionaries to bowlers, but that could just be me.
And also would never work nowadays. That is no longer a profession, I don't think.
No,
There's
not
no
a
one
chance.
selling dictionaries.
Not a chance.
There's a part in the movie where they go to, I'm assuming it's a sort of self-proclaimed Kingpin mafia type guy's house.
Yes.
And they do a little bowling game. Again, they're betting on who's going to win. And the guys do win and they have to escape this house because now the guy is mad that he has to pay them because they didn't have real money to pay him back if he had won. And they have to do a getaway in a car. And the car is driven so crazy. It's sparks are coming from the ground, flames from behind it. And all I could think of was, is Marissa driving this car?
Okay. Just chill. Me and D'Artagnan have known each other for 6 years, I want to say, maybe.
Oh, longer than that now.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Because I would have been 17. Jeez. Anyway, known each other for quite a while. Today is the first time ever that Dee has let me drive him somewhere further than a block away from my house.
I don't think that's true.
It's very true. You've always... What about today? When you knew that we had to go to the other end of the city and you did not want me to drive. Do you think that this is... You're the first time that you've done this?
I offered because you drove last time.
I drove to Subway around the corner from my house.
I was just trying to be nice.
No, you weren't. You were trying to save your own life.
Is it bad to self-preserve?
Yes, so when it's being mean to me, about my driving, which is perfectly fine. There's a lady in this movie, the landlord of Roy.
Yeah. Do you know who she is?
No, I have no idea.
It was Lin Che from like the Insidious movies and like all the.
Seen.
Oh, she's quite popular in the horror community. So I was really excited to see her there because I've never seen her
in anything but horror.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the freaky part is she pretty much looks exactly the same than she does now. And I mean, her teeth are a little bit better nowadays, but she looks exactly the same as... What? Does she not age? Or is she always, 65?
Been really old, yeah.
Love her, but she looks the same.
Yeah, so there's a scene where Roy can't pay his rent, and so in exchange, he has sex with her. And he's vomiting in the bathroom beside the bed.
After he's done.
And she said, "Oh, it's not that bad," as he's literally projectiling into this toilet. And then she goes, then D'Artagnan goes, "Oh, she reminds me of you." And I go, "That's not funny." To then, right after me saying that, she goes, "What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap?" And I went, okay, you know what? I see it now. For everyone listening, I don't shut up about my shits.
Ever.
I'm very open about me pooping, about how disgusting they are. I always say it, I'd rather tell somebody, like if I'm at work, I'd rather go, "Hey, I'm gonna go take a gnarly shit in the bathroom. I might be 15 minutes. Don't come looking for me." And then give it a half hour before you step in. But like, at least I don't have to then walk out and embarrassingly walk out and wash my hands and then have this stench of my nasty shit leaking out into the place of business.
I mean, it still does.
And be embarrassed. Well, no, but now I've warned people that this is what I'm doing. You might hear a toot, you might hear a plop, and you're definitely gonna smell something. So just avoid that area. It's that simple.
It's very courteous of you, actually.
Yeah.
Except when you Snapchat to us.
I used to do, that was my thing. I used to do it. As soon as you added me on Snapchat, you wouldn't get a Snapchat from me until I was taking a poop, and then I would just take the juiciest poop and record it and say, "Welcome to my Snapchat." And that's how I introduce people to my Snapchat.
Good old poop chat. So Ishmael gets a...
You say his name different every time.
Ishmael. I do say it different every time. I think it's Ishmael.
Ishmael, yeah.
Let's give me Ishmael right now. So Ishmael, he wakes up with a tattoo that he did not know that he got.
Yes.
And all I could think was some people get 4-leaf clovers on their chests, and other people get Demi Lovato on their chests.
I'm still proud of that.
Is there any tattoos that you regret?
You really want to bring this up, don't you? There are a couple that I regret.
I think it goes in line with what we watched.
Goes in line with what we watched.
He didn't like that he had a tattoo on him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, if I can give you guys any advice, which once I'm not following my own advice because now I work with my boyfriend again, so...
If you watched last week's shows.
But, if you guys are going to take any of my advice, it would be, do not, and there's two parts to this, do not tattoo a significant other's name on you, regardless of if you're married or not. And secondly, if you choose to get your significant other's name tattooed on you, don't put it on your hands where everyone can see. And everyone likes to bring it up every time they see you. Huh, you regret that yet? Yeah, I do, thank you. Would you like to give me the $200 to get them covered up? No, then shut up.
I'm curious what your husband at the time thought of the name. Was he happy that you got his name on you?
He was indifferent, but you have to understand, he got my name tattooed on him the second week we were dating. So, I mean, I don't think that this was too shocking being 3 years in and married. That should have been a red flag to me when he tattooed my name on his hand, might I add, 2 weeks into our relationship.
A little extreme.
A little bit.
Would you sleep with your friend for $1 million?
100% hands down.
Any friend?
Where are you going with this?
I just think it was an interesting...
This is a trick question.
In the movie, Roy was asked... It was kind of a dream sequence, but Roy was asked in this dream, would he sleep with Ishmael for $1 million? Would that proposition be something that most people would say yes to without even questioning what that could entail.
Would you have sex with me for $1 million?
Dead silence.
Not even $1 million.
I don't know, because I don't think I live based off how much money I can get from situations. And I think that when you have sex with somebody that you have never planned to have sex with,
come on,
it would change things. And I don't know if I could.
That's a lot of money, though.
So I'm asking you, does it depend on the friend? Because you said yes right away, but if I picked said friend...
No, I would not have sex with that friend. I would not have sex with the other friend either that you have in your mind, just to let you know. Not Ak, not Co. Neither of them. Do I have any other friends? No, I don't. So I guess the answer is, let me make some friends first and I'll let you know what I think of them.
It's a very loaded question. So the reason that Ishmael agrees to doing this tournament with Roy, or for Roy really, Roy is not really part of the tournament, is because he was promised $500,000, and it turns out his little farm needs $500,000 to stay afloat. Yeah. So that's kind of the starting point of hey, I'm gonna help Roy, I'm going to get this money, and that ends my journey with him. And they get to the tournament and they have to sign in. And it's revealed that Roy has to pay his dues that he hasn't paid in, I think it was 16 years. And it was $38. I get that was a joke. It was kind of funny that after all these years, he only owed $38.
With interest.
Yeah. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to find $38. But I was thinking about that. And I remember when I was in Cubs, which is before Boy Scouts, we had to pay dues. And it gave me so much anxiety every single week to have to find that money. I think it was only $3.75. It wasn't it was a lot of money, but I think I was probably 9 or 10 years old. I think I was in grade 4, maybe a little bit younger. And literally having to find that money or hold on to that money for the whole week and not spend it on candy or something gave me so much anxiety, and I would feel so bad if I forgot the money. Because I always forget things. Whenever I go somewhere, I will forget 5 out of the 7 things that I need to bring with me. And I always forgot the dues. And the look they gave me was just a parent looking down on you for not doing your homework or something.
Yeah.
And it just ate me alive that I did not pay my dues. And I don't even know what that money was for.
For the pins.
It was Cubs.
Sorry.
We didn't bowl in Cubs.
Not the bowling pins. I made a fire pin that you put on your sash.
We get badges.
Sorry.
And you have to sew them on, okay? Somebody was not in Cubs or Brownies or Sparks.
I couldn't afford the $3.75 a week, man.
Not many kids can.
And if I could, I would have spent it on candy.
So did you have anything that had dues growing up?
No, the only recreational activities that I did were soccer and dance. I didn't do anything that, pay them $200 one time and you're good for the season. But you don't really owe anything after that for anything, right? So
fair. I don't know. I loved Cubs. I was in Beavers and Cubs.
I don't even think they had Beavers when I was... Obviously, I wouldn't have been, but...
Yeah, it would have been Brownies. I was in Beavers. I was so excited to get in because I grew up really poor and my family couldn't get me into many things. And I had so many passions and so many interests that I wanted to be a part of something. So to finally get into Beavers, beyond excited.
Mm-hmm.
My first day, it was around Halloween, and the first activity we had to do was make a Halloween mask, and I finished mine in 5 minutes. And the rest of the kids were like, how do I use scissors? I was on the cusp of being too old for Beavers.
Yeah.
So I just felt so out of place and so above and beyond everyone else that I just couldn't be there. And I was just like, Mom, I don't want to do this. I can't. And she's like, okay, you don't have to. But then when I was old enough for Cubs, she's like, do you want to try it again? And I was like, sure. I love Cubs so much. And I got so excited. So me and my mom went to the Boy Scout store.
Yeah.
So they had these badges and they were of animals, and I love animals. So I bought every single animal. and my mom sewed on every single badge like onto my sash. So I walked
You
in.
imposter.
So I walked in first day and I'm just covered in these animal badges and everyone else has nothing. You know, they're just like ready to start their day. And they're like, oh, nice sash. And I'm like, thanks, I love it. And they're like, yeah, you have to remove every single one of them. And I was devastated, just devastated. And I'm like, but I love them. I'm like, I want to keep them. They're like, no. And I'm like, well, what do I do with them? They're like, I don't know, make a blanket or something. And I was just destroyed, crushed.
I would have walked out.
I wanted my animal sash.
I'm taking this sash with the animals on it. I'm getting out of here.
If I had done that, I would not have gone to the Jamboree, and I wouldn't have won the blowing competition.
That comes in handy now, doesn't it? And that is when I learned.
The one thing that I was really happy with was the bowling scenes. Like, they felt really real. I don't know if the actors actually did the bowling, or if it's stunt doubles or what it was, but the bowling's really good.
I like it, yeah.
And if that's not CG, or like, I don't know if they faked it or if they composed two different shots at the same time, but it all looked really...
Very real.
Very real. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, for it to be a comedy and maybe have cutaways and like not see the person throwing and the ball hitting at the same time. But they show kind of everything, and it was really nice.
Did you miss at the beginning? I think you might have missed at the beginning when he's first a young adult and he's in the first competition and he wins, and he throws the ball and halfway down the aisle it stops and just spins there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure you've seen that.
No, and I get it, and it's funny because they didn't really do that again in the movie. Like they had that moment where it was kind of funny
to show
and
that he's good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
But they didn't. The rest of the movie's not like that. It's really is legit bowling. So outside of having the ball stop and spin on itself, it was a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
So they get to the tournament or the competition, and Ishmael gets his hand hurt in a fight, and he can no longer be a part of...
With the wall.
Yeah, he punched the wall. And he no longer can be a part of the competition. So Roy, he says, okay, well, it's over. We can't do this. And Ishmael's like, no, you do it. Like, you be the one that plays. And Roy has a hook for a hand and a rubber hand over that hook when he's walking around town. So he enters the competition and he plays with his rubber hand, and he does really, really good.
Yeah.
So why did he need to get Ishmael? Why was that? I don't get it. If he could always play bowling with his hook hand, why did he need to have Ishmael at all? Because the whole point of the movie was he couldn't bowl, so he had to get Ishmael because Ishmael was a good bowler. But clearly Roy always was too. So why did we need to have Ishmael?
I guess you just weren't paying attention to the movie. That's fine.
What?
Well, the thing of it is that after his hand got cut off, he decided he was no longer gonna try to bowl. He didn't try to bowl with his severed hand and his hook hand and his rubber hand. He didn't try that. He just up and moved. Roy gives Ishmael the money that he needs for his farm because of a Trojan contract that he signed. After that, he goes, you said you were saving the Amish by doing this, but you were really saving me. He needed Ishmael to be like, you are the greatest bowler, and the greatest bowler is going to win this competition. And he needed Ishmael to push him in the direction of give it a try. Ishmael literally says to him, yeah, you're gonna be rough the first couple throws that you make, but then you're gonna get right back into the swing of things, which shows because he throws his first ball and his rubber hand comes off with it. But then he goes along. So it was the fact that he didn't need Ishmael to be the bowling champion. He needed him to be a friend. Why are you laughing at me? That's the whole premise of the movie.
Okay, yeah.
That's the premise of the fucking movie. What do you mean?
I get it.
Okay.
It's just so cheesy.
It is cheesy.
And I feel like after...
Oh, and because Dumb and Dumber is not cheesy.
No, Dumb and Dumber is cheesy, but I think after watching that friendship movie and then going into another friendship movie, there's a lot of parallels between the two. So it doesn't feel that fresh. Don't glare at me.
So this is my dad's favorite movie. And... I don't know if you didn't understand or if you just really did not like the line, but it's something my dad says very often, all the time. And it's there in a hotel room, Ishmael and Roy. And Roy is taking care of his dental hygiene. And Ishmael goes, hey Munson, what you doing? And Roy goes, flossin'. And Ishmael's like, where'd I get Munson from?
I still don't get it. I still don't get it.
What is there not to get?
I don't know. I don't know what's funny about that. I don't get it.
But do you understand?
No.
It's because he goes, Munson, what are you doing? And he goes, flossin'. So Ishmael thought he was correcting his last name. So he's like, where did I get Munson from? Come on, it's funny. Whatever.
Way over my head. Way over my head. I'm glad your dad likes it and finds that scene hilarious.
Apparently so do I.
I felt like the pacing was off in this movie. I felt it kind of jumped around, especially when it came to having Claudia be a part of this movie. She was the girlfriend of the gangster Kingpin man, and she got beaten by him, so she leaves him and then joins the boys on their journey. And I kind of felt she was a throwaway character. I felt they didn't give her much to do other than, show her boobs off and be a distraction for the other teams in the montage scenes. I didn't feel there was much character development as far as the main characters. And even Ishmael, they show him having different scenarios come into his life, like going to a strip club or
smoking weed
and stuff like that. But they were all done in montage ways again. Mm-hmm. So I felt it took away from what could have been funny scenes or a good chance to show different growth amongst the characters by putting them in scenarios that are really awkward for him. Because it seemed like he, at the beginning of the movie, didn't want to do anything, which makes sense for how he was raised. But by the midpoint, he's pretty game for everything. And they didn't really show him struggling too much with anything. So I wish there had just been more character development in that sense, because I didn't go on a journey with him and I really wanted to.
So I disagree with you about Claudia. And yes, it's very small in a sense of where her character develops, but even when they're at the Kingpin's house, she's doing everything in her power to distract Ishmael from making the third strike so that her boyfriend doesn't lose money. Yeah. And so she goes to the fridge, she opens the fridge, her nipples get hard. Ishmael doesn't care because he's raised Amish, so to him he's not looking. I feel from there, after the beating, which I do agree, it's a very small timeline of her growth, but I do see the growth in the sense where she does get mad at Roy for treating Ishmael like he is this pawn in his bowling game, and she's always super sweet to him.
And I agree with what you're saying. I just feel it's a small segment of the movie because she's not in most of it.
Yes.
She's only in towards the later half.
Yes.
And then she's gone for a portion even at the end. So I agree with what you're saying, and she does have good moments, but the growth I felt personally just could have been extended if they had just given them more screen time and not just the montages, because most of her stuff was montage, and same with the growth that Ishmael had was mostly montages.
Yes, and
it's a montage heavy movie.
To extend, I'm not saying that this is anything on Ishmael's growth, but at the end, I do find it kind of funny that the brother comes to take him home, and he's like, Ishmael, we have to go now. And he's like, no, but there's bowling, and I have half a beer, and all this stuff. And then his brother goes, no, we need to go now. And he's like, okay. And he just gets up and leaves. And I think it's that sense of he's obviously not maybe fully mentally there, even as an Amish person as well. So someone who hasn't experienced everything, someone who's definitely maybe a little bit, obviously more naive to the outside world. And I love his character, and I would agree with you. He's definitely my favorite character in the movie by far. I
agree. Yeah. I just wish that he was funnier, but that's not necessarily him. It's just the writing, I think. So
yes. Well, no, I don't agree with you, but yes, I see what you're saying. Well, we'll get to the ratings and you'll see what I'm saying.
Okay, let's do it then. Let's get to the ratings. Or do you have more?
No, the only thing that I've got two things to mention. They're kind of little funny things. Okay. One of my most memorable things from Kingpin, I haven't seen the movie in a very long time, so there was a lot that I forgot when watching it today. But one of the things I do remember is at the championship at the end, my whole family would cackle at how Ernie McCracken, whatever, how his hair as the tournament goes on, it just gets crazier, and we would just be pissing ourselves laughing because it's just sticking 3 feet out of his head, and just it's such a good movie. The other thing I want to mention, I said, did you see that? And you're going to mention this when I mention my ratings, but it does not affect my ratings. I think it's funny, and you obviously didn't see it. So at the end of the championship, Ernie and Roy shake hands, and Ernie pulls the rubber hand off and throws it into the crowd.
Yes.
So then Roy's left there without his rubber hand.
And Ernie just won the competition as well.
Yes. So Roy goes and sits down, and then Ernie walks where Roy was sitting, and a big crowd circles around Ernie, and that's where you're supposed to have your focus on. But I had my focus on Roy sitting in his chair, kind of buried in the back. It's where you can see he picks up his sweat towel and he puts it on his lap, and then out of his sleeve you can see his real hand poke through and grab the hook and then pull his hand back into the sleeve.
Really?
So that he just has his hook hand. Yeah, and I thought that was so funny. Because like you say, unless you're actually like staring, it's small, but unless you're actually staring at his hand, you can't tell. But to see that little, here's the sweat towel. No, it's my hook hand. It was just so funny, and yeah. You'll have to go back and see it. It's funny.
I love when movies have like those little errors in them or the boom mics and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I liked that. Okay, every movie we have a rating system. It goes from on a scale of 1 to 3 in 5 different categories. Let's start with what we rated the movie as a whole out of a possible 15, and I want you to go first.
I mean, that's kind of cheating the system a little bit, but I gave it an 8.
And I gave it our first perfect score of 15. And we divided...
your perfect score.
Yes, we divided into the 5 categories. First one being edge of seat rating.
Well, I mean, there's no point asking you what your scores are, because it's going to be 3 for all of them.
It's going to be 3 for all of them, exactly. So, go for it.
I gave it a 2, which was a little high, I feel, but I gave it a 2. I like the idea that this was a bowling movie. You don't see too many bowling movies out there, so I think that kept me a little bit intrigued of how is this going to end. And I actually thought at the end, they're going to have the classic, Roy overcomes everything and wins and gets the money and maybe doesn't give it to Ishmael, and then there's that whole drama. That didn't happen, though. So I'm okay with how it ended, and it kept me entertained for the most part, so that's why it gets a 2.
Okay, and the acting?
Also got a 2. I think that most of the characters were fine. I think that Ernie was probably the one that I didn't like the most. I felt it was very cartoony, and I get that this is a comedy and there is going to be cartoonish aspects to the comedy, but I didn't really understand his motivation at the beginning when he double-crossed Roy, and also felt at the end, even though his physical comedy was there, it just didn't feel like a real character to me.
Mm-hmm. Climax and ending?
1. It got a 1. Even though I didn't see that Ernie was going to win coming, I felt it was convenient about the Trojan condoms, getting sponsored by them type stuff. Roy paid Ishmael and gave him money, and he gets the girl at the end, and it was too perfectly like everyone's happy even though we didn't win, and we all got everything we wanted anyways, and everything's amazing. And I don't think that really fit the tone of the story with how dark it can be, because I mean, losing someone's hand that way is not a very innocent start to a movie. Their motivations were really greedy for the most part, except for Ishmael, who was doing it for his whole society of people he lived with.
Well, that's why I think that character growth also comes into play as well, where, and I know that it was meant to be this way, but even when he got that $500,000 from the Trojan company, he mentioned that he was going to keep that all for himself instead of splitting the money that the 3 of them had won together on their adventures. And then, of course, the next scene is him, which it's going to happen. You know that he just got $500,000 and his friend needed $500,000. You knew it was going to happen. But that is also growth, because he went to Ishmael's farm to pretended to be an Irish Amish man and sucked on a bull's teeth to try and get this guy for his own selfish reasons. And then he ends up only winning $500,000, and he gives it to his friend. Now, I'm sure if he looks logically into this, Trojan would give him more money, blah, blah, blah. He can bowl again, all this stuff. But he does take a large sum of $500,000 in 1996. That's a lot of money. And he gives it to his friend. I think that that's really nice ending. The script. I would just cut you off. I will let you finish. I'm going to let you finish. But Beyonce.
Thanks, Kanye. The script, I gave it a 2. Again, I felt there were parts where, again, it wasn't as funny as it could have been. And the characters weren't fully developed, like I said, with the growth of who each individual character was. I didn't really get that feeling from it. So 2 is the highest I can give it.
And would you watch again?
I gave it a 1. For me, I don't see any replay value in it. I didn't find it fun enough to watch again. I'm not invested in the characters to watch it again. And I just feel like there were other movies that they made that are funnier, like Dumb and Dumber.
If you haven't noticed, Dee does not like any of my movie choices, and he would not watch a single one again.
We've just started. We're only in week 2.
You think that my movie choices get better? This is as good as it gets.
This is the best of the best. It has to get better. It has to get better. There's more out there.
You know how hard it is to pick movies that you haven't seen, that I have? It's impossible.
Well, so far you found 4.
That you hated. And I would like to keep this in mind for the people listening. My picks might sound like shitty movies.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
No, but here's the thing.
Okay.
I probably have a great movie repertoire outside of these, but you've seen them all, so I can't pick those.
Which might be our season 2.
Movies that you have seen, but they're mine.
Yeah, that you think deserve a rewatch.
You better start liking some of my damn movies then, or else I'm not going to make it to season 2.
So we have to discuss why you gave it a perfect score.
Because even though I know what happens at the end, I know how it goes, I still was just as excited to keep watching till the end. Even though I knew what happened, I love Ishmael's character so much. The acting, I think, is amazing. You know, and once I always try and reflect these off of, I try and think like, what else does Randy Quaid play? What else does Woody Harrelson play? What else does Bill Murray play? And I try and look at it in a sense of like, is this a different character for them? If it is, did they do better at this or worse than this? And I just think that they did really good in what they were doing. The climax and the ending, like you say, I think it is a little special that you expect that he's going to go and he's going to play with his rubber hand and he's going to win the $1 million bowling championship, and he doesn't. And yeah, I think that the whole movie keeps me interested. I love the ending. The script, I think, as you know, is hilarious to me. I find it so funny. So I think that it's really well done. And I will watch it again. So that is 15 out of 15, a perfect score in my opinion. So currently, now with our new ranking of this movie at 23, we have number 4 being Sierra, Burgess is a Loser, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut in spot 3. Our spot 2 now goes to Kingpin, and still number 1, holding strong at 25.5, Urban Legend. Love that movie. So good. That was last week Thursday. Check it out. Big plot twist. Love it. So good. Did you figure out what your D'Artagnan is? D'Artagnan. Mine is shitting. Like, if you leave a nasty shit in the toilet, especially on the seat, you Marissa all over the place.
I think if I had to think of something that is D'Artagnan, it would be when
someone blows really good.
I mean, I'm okay with that. But no, I think it's when you tell someone they're not doing a good job because they're not doing a good job.
What are you trying to say?
You, D'Artagnan.
I think when someone is mean to people and they yell at people for no reason.
I have never yelled at you. You yelled at me today.
At customers, at breakouts. I mean, at a job we used to work at mutually. I
didn't yell at anyone. I was just sassy.
Yeah, and it pissed me off. That's being D'Artagnan. Just pissing Marissa off. I'm out of here.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Revival.